Hello everybody, I am Tiffany, and today I am bringing you another book review. Another book is in the bag. I'm so proud of myself. Ooh, 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 ooh. This book I am super excited for because in my last book review I mentioned that it was a recommended book. Well, this one is also a recommended book. I love it when I get your guys' suggestions, and I've always told you that I do write them down and keep track of them. This is proof that I do. It takes me forever to get to them, and I am sorry. I have this little routine for myself in order to keep up with my books. So it takes me forever sometimes to get to books that you guys recommend, but I write them down and I make sure that I go out and get them. The book I am reviewing today is The Leaving, and it is by Tara Altebrando. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I am really sorry. My outfit has nothing to do with the book. My eyes look weird, I know. I had a photo shoot earlier in the day and I didn't want to take off the makeup yet. The Leaving by Tara Altebrando. This goes along with a series of books that I'm reading that I don't usually read. As you know, I love sci-fi and fantasy, and I've been trying to branch out a little bit more, which is why I love hearing from you guys, because you guys throw out all types of genres. It's really cool. It is a mystery book. Ooh, and I love mystery, but I don't read enough mystery books. For those of you who don't know what The Leaving is about, it follows these group of kids that disappeared when they were in kindergarten. There were 6 kids that disappeared. Then 11 years later, 5 of the kids come back. 1 does not return. These kids have no idea what in the world happened to them, where they were at these past 11 years. They remember nothing. And of course, the families and everybody wants to know what in the world happened to them. And they have to try and figure it out themselves. And on top of that, you have the mystery of the 6th kid who did not return with the rest of the group. A lot of mystery happening around this book. This book was in between for me. It had some really good moments, but overall it didn't captivate me as much as I wanted it to. Not saying that it isn't fun, it isn't interesting. I personally felt like I wasn't as intrigued by it as I could have been. I think the writing style had a little bit of something to do with it. One thing that I appreciate about this author is that she does write in a very different and unique way, and is trying to make it unique and interesting and more fun to read because of that. But to me, it falls a little bit flat, but I still appreciate that she did try and do that. And there were moments where, again, it worked really well, but then there were moments that I was getting a little bit confused and lost. If you are looking for a really fast read, this is actually a fast read. It is really fast and it's really simple. It's not hard to understand what they're talking about. Just, it happens so fast sometimes, I think, that you get a little bit lost and you have to reread pages sometimes. That happened to me, at least. I don't think I'm completely satisfied with this book. I think I wanted a bit more from it, but it's not saying that it's a bad book. It just wasn't completely my cup of tea when it comes to mystery. This book and With Malice were both recommended to me, and out of the both of them, I liked With Malice better. I think they're very similar in the plot in some ways because both of your main characters have no idea what in the world happened to them, and you're trying to figure out with them what happened exactly. But I feel like With Malice did it better than this book. For those of you who want statistics, this book got a 3.48 on Goodreads, which is not the best rating on Goodreads. I feel like that rating was actually pretty accurate just because it did get a little bit confusing and a little bit jumbled here and there. It has very interesting characters in it. I will say one thing about that though, is that you get 3 main perspectives in this book, and there's more than 3 main characters, of course, so I just wish a little bit that I could have gotten perspectives from all of the characters. That's just my fantasy side though, that's used to every single character getting a perspective. Like in Game of Thrones, it's ridiculous. Every character pretty much gets a perspective. That is really all I can say in the non-spoilery section for you guys. Even though I wasn't the biggest fan of this, one philosophy I always have for those of you who watch my channel consistently, one thing I always say is that just because I may not be the biggest fan of a book or may not have the best opinion on it, I never ever try and discourage people from reading a book or watching a movie. Because at the end of the day, this story may not connect to me personally, but that doesn't mean it won't connect to you. There are so many books and movies out there that I've watched and read that a lot of people aren't really huge fans of, or they don't think it's good. But to me, it's really fun and awesome and I love it, and I don't get why other people don't like it. It's the same type of thing. I really didn't connect to this book as much as I wanted to, but I still say go out there and give it a chance. So even though I'm giving it an okay rating, still go check it out for yourself and see what you think and form your own opinion. Then you can come back and we can discuss all the spoilery stuff together. That's it for the non-spoilery section. Go and read this book and then come back and we'll discuss all the rest of the stuff together. Thank you for joining me, non-spoilery people. I'll see you when you've reached spoiler status. it has been a little bit since I've read this book. So if I forget anything in here that's really important, I tis be sorry. This book threw me off at the very beginning because the first perspective you get is Scarlett's perspective. And as you know, for those of you who've read the book, Scarlett has this very weird writing style where it kind of goes topsy-turvy, there's random spaces, like there's lines. Look, can you see? There's kind of like this random space and there's just these slashes, which kind of, I guess, represent memory gaps. That threw me off a little bit, and I get what they were trying to do, that she's a little bit, I guess, scatterbrained and trying to remember, but the character itself I don't think matched that style of writing. Scarlett was sane to me, and to me, when a character is written like that, they should be a little bit off the deep end. Look at this. It writes like that. To me, that screams crazy person. Scarlett overall, I wasn't a huge fan of. I felt she was a little bit annoying, and I didn't completely like the relationship between her and Lucas. That was a weird love thing that happened. I don't know. I don't even know what it was. It was just weird. I liked the idea, though, that they had these leftover feelings and they didn't really understand it. That to me was cool when they all get dropped off at the beginning and then she kind of looks at Lucas and they connect and you realize they probably had something in the past but you don't know what. That to me was all super interesting and I loved having that being played throughout the book. Kristen was actually a character I really liked, and I liked that she had these feelings towards Scarlett of not liking her really, and you don't really understand why. I feel like, though, it wasn't fully developed. I wanted that to play out more. That moment where she says, "I think I hated you," made me be like, ooh, what's gonna happen? Are they gonna be enemies? Is she gonna find out that Scarlett did something to her when they were in wherever they were at? But nothing actually came of it, which made me kind of like, oh, okay, now they're friends. Even though she hated her in the past, they're friends now. Another perspective that you have in the book out of the three is Avery. I did not like Avery. Scarlett was better than Avery to me. Avery was annoying. I understood her character, but I feel like she's so much about herself. At the beginning, when she first runs into Lucas again, it's about her brother and saying that you should know where he's at, you're not telling us something. And then she goes on the news, which was stupid, and calls out these guys that just returned and have no idea what's happening. But she does that because she's upset her brother didn't come back. That I understood. But then after that, she got obsessed with Lucas, and that was all about her. And it was about her trying to get Lucas. It wasn't about really finding her brother, which irritated me. I don't know if other people felt that, but to me, Avery was selfish throughout this. And that's what made this love triangle hard, because I think there was supposed to be kind of a love triangle between Lucas, Scarlett, and Avery. Avery likes Lucas. Lucas kind of feels something towards her. But then I was conflicted. I didn't really love either one. I was leaning towards Scarlett for most of the book because Avery annoyed me so much. And I did not want Lucas with Avery. I was saying, why are you feeling that way towards her? No, you are with Scarlett. Stick with Scarlett. But then I find out Scarlett may have cheated on him, which is why she kind of feels guilty around him. Now I'm like, man, you don't give me anybody to root for in this little love triangle. And then I felt like they didn't completely just flesh out their relationship. It was annoying. It was plain straight up annoying. I didn't want to deal with any of them. My favorite character next to Lucas was Kristen, but I didn't get her perspective. Now did I? But she was interesting to me. The final perspective that you get, of course, is Lucas. And Lucas is the saving grace of this book. Every time a Lucas chapter came up, I loved it. Even when he was kind of falling for Avery, which was annoying, I still liked reading his perspective because Lucas was a really, really good guy. It was a little weird at the beginning, though, when his father all of a sudden dies. That kind of woke me up and I was like, wait, what? He's dead now? It was very, very weird. But overall, Lucas was definitely my favorite. I mentioned in the non-spoilery section, I wish I had different perspectives. When I first started reading this book, you're introduced to the 5 kids that came back, and you're wondering where Max is at. But you're introduced to these 5 main people that disappeared. And my brain automatically thought, okay, we're going to hear from each perspective. We first heard from Scarlett, then from Lucas, and all of a sudden we go to Avery, and then I go, okay, that's fine because she's the sister of the one kid that's still missing. But then that was the only 3, and I felt like in a book like this that's supposed to focus on these 5 kids coming back, that it should have had all the perspectives. The beginning was confusing, but then the middle started to pull itself together. It started to interest me when we find out that Scarlett has something in her body and that Lucas has a tattoo. You're curious about what in the world they did that for, because they don't remember what they did that for. So that's when I started to get into the book more so and be like, okay, now we're starting to get it going. We got past the weird stuff with introducing everyone a little bit, though Adam and Sarah just disappeared off the face of the earth in this book. It started to intrigue me, especially once Scarlett figures out what she has. You have a trail now. She knows to go to this place and figure out what happened. That whole sequence was super fun for me. She takes Lucas, they find out that they went to this pier, they find out that they probably had this secret romance and there's a carving of their initials in one of the poles, and you're figuring it all out, and it's really, really cool. And then also, before that a little bit, Lucas finds a book called The Leaving that specifically describes what happened to these kids. Them disappearing and them being used as experiments to try and eliminate bad memories. There's a whole book on it that was published years before this event even took place. I thought, this is interesting. We are getting somewhere. And I got really excited because then they're going to go see the author. It just all of a sudden fell flat. And I went, wait, what happened? Because they go and they see the author. This author has Alzheimer's and doesn't remember anything really. And so they give him the book, and then I'm thinking, okay, well maybe all of a sudden he'll remember something. But then nothing happens. It's never ever mentioned again. And it just feels like it was thrown in there randomly, like it was really forgotten about, and then they go, oh yeah, I need to wrap this in somehow because this was important in the first part of the book. That's the thing that was frustrating me, is that there were so many good ideas in this book, but they weren't fully developed, and it bugged me. It was stopped short before you got to the really, really good part. That's what kept happening, is it piqued my interest, piqued my interest, piqued my interest, nothing. Piqued my interest, piqued my interest, piqued my interest, nothing. And then it started to get more interesting with the whole Max situation. That whole part I think was really, really good. You have the mystery of they call, they say they found a body, and you're like, oh my gosh, is it Max? You know it's not Max, but it's still that mystery of why would someone do that? It just creates mystery, and that's what you want in a mystery book. You don't want people to be confused, you want them to be like, oh, what's happening here? After that, I think it just became all a jumbled mess for me a bit, and I feel bad saying that because, again, I liked a lot of the themes in this and the ideas, but it just didn't follow through on any of them. The book had an identity crisis. It didn't know where it wanted to go with the story because the ending to me was really, really weird. There was no satisfaction within me once I finished this book. All of a sudden, they find the place with the investigator. I didn't really like the investigator, in all honesty. I thought he was a little weird. And then they're kind of starting to remember. They find out they had a journal to remember everything that happened. And you find out their memory kept being erased and erased and erased and erased and erased in order to try and make them forget the bad memories and make like this perfect utopia where kids don't remember bad stuff. They only remember the good stuff. But then it just got weird. I don't even know how to describe it. They find Max, I believe he's dead, and you find out that something went wrong with him. He had asthma or something, and so when they tried to do stuff, it caused an attack and he died. And then you find out the principal of the school was involved in the kidnapping in the first place and helped whoever this scientist dude was. But then it went horribly wrong, so the principal felt awful and then called in a tip about it. And then what happened? And then you just find out that's basically all that it was. And then they dropped them off because I guess the experiment had to end. It made no sense. It wasn't a twist of, oh my gosh, this was so unexpected, but it totally fits within the story. It was a twist of, where did this come from? I don't understand. They read the book once, and then they decided to do this to these kids. It didn't work for me. I wanted to meet the maker more so. Just nothing was resolved right for me, in all honesty. I was a little bit disappointed. And I wanted more Adam and Sarah and Kristen. Kristen was kind of okay. I really wanted her perspective, like I said. She was in it enough for me that I liked her. But Adam and Sarah, who I really felt like should have been bigger characters because they're part of that 5 that ended up disappearing, ended up doing nothing. They were there one time for Lucas to get mad at Adam because of past feelings and he doesn't understand why he doesn't like Adam. But other than that, there's no reason to have them, and Sarah's just, I don't even know. Sarah's there for like 1 or 2 scenes and that's it. That is all I have to say about this book. I ranted about it, I think, for a good little while now. Despite all I said, even if you stayed all the way through the spoilery section and you haven't read it, go and read it and just see what you think. It didn't make complete sense to me, but to you, you may love it personally. Don't let my opinion completely discourage you from reading it. Just for me, it didn't hit as much as I wanted it to. It was so close, it could have been fantastic. I just felt like it missed it by like a smidge. It was a smidge. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any other book or movie recommendations, please leave them in the comments below. I write down all of your suggestions and I will make sure to get to them like I did to this one eventually. I know it took a while and I'm sorry about that, but here it is. Dun dun dun. Also, if you want any updates on anything, make sure you check out my blog. There's a link that should flash here and there's a link to it in the description below as well. Make sure you go check it out. That keeps you updated on any video updates. Have an awesome day, evening, afternoon, whatever time of the day you're watching this in. don't forget to be awesome. All right. See you guys later. Bye. Wah!